Welcome back. Episode 199, Discipline and Confidence. I get a lot of questions from Hector Patino in Houston. Hector's a top leader, building the team on the road to owning his own company. So Hector, you know I'm cheering for you. You know I'm a big fan. And you're very thoughtful in a lot of your questions. I like this one. What's the correlation between discipline and confidence? I am connecting the dots. The disciplined things ultimately lead to growth and confidence. And I like how you're connecting those dots. I think there's a lot of truth to that. The first time I read How to Win Friends and Influence People, I think there's a lot of wisdom right at the very end of this book that says the way to develop self-confidence. All right, Dale, you've got my attention. How do you develop self-confidence? Is to do the thing that you fear to do and get a record of successful experiences behind you. So does it take discipline to do the things you fear to do? Well, absolutely. It takes courage and discipline. And then you build your self-confidence as you get little wins under your belt. So we're going to dive into this. In this episode, I'm going to talk about a couple things that will squash your confidence. So let's try to avoid these things. And then we'll finish with what are things that will give you big gains in building your self-confidence. How to squash confidence. Jaime, I don't want to know how to squash my confidence. Well, maybe we should study that. It's kind of like, well, there's the book How to Win Friends, right? And Influence People. Well, there's also the opposite, How to Lose Friends and Alienate People. I'm not sure if you've read this book, right? But this is how you can really lose a bunch of friends. I'm not sure you want to read that or not, but what are the things that will squash your confidence? Well, from my personal experience, right, the first thing I think of is choosing easy, right, or choosing comfortable. It's something I tell my kids all the time. You can do the right thing or you can do the easy thing. Well, Dad, don't you mean I can do the right thing or I can do the wrong thing? Well, wrong is kind of easy. If you gravitate to easy or you gravitate to comfort, that's going to squash your confidence. And what I like to think of as an example is, I remember when I was really lacking the discipline to go to the gym and work out. I remember, okay, I'm going to set my calendar and I'm going to work out tomorrow. You know what? I need to get off my butt. It's time to build the habit of working out. And I remember the alarm going off. It's going off at 5 something in the morning. It's dark. It'll be cold as soon as I take the covers off and then start sweating. I really don't feel like it. And so I just want to sleep in. Tomorrow, I'll do it tomorrow. And that's the procrastinator's credo. The best time to do anything is always going to be tomorrow, right? That's how procrastinators think. I was guilty of that. And it totally shattered my confidence by gravitating to easy, gravitating to comfort. So that's a great way to squash your confidence. Similar to choosing a path of ease or a path of comfort is to just give a fraction of the effort that you're capable of giving. Like avoiding giving it your best, avoid giving it 100%. That is a recipe for squashing or shattering your confidence. Knowing that you could have given more, but you didn't, that will kill the confidence, no question. I've been coaching Little League sports for quite a few years, and so something I've been in the habit of doing during the playoffs or a championship game, I love reading a Vince Lombardi quote to the kids. I'm going to share it with you here today. I just love this quote. I firmly believe that any man's finest hour, the greatest fulfillment of all that he holds dear, is that moment when he has worked his heart out in a good cause and lies exhausted on the field of battle victorious. Like, in other words, by the end of this game, we should just be so spent. We're so exhausted. Right? And I think of the work week when I was early on in my career. It was interesting how by the end of the work week, I had this extra tank of energy. I had this turbo boost to get out and go party and go meet people. And it didn't take long for me to say to myself, like, how is it that I have all this energy at the end of the work week? I should have all this energy at the beginning of the work week So I'm like, maybe I'm just not working hard enough. I should be exhausted, kind of like in sports. I mean, I got the concept loud and clear in high school sports, but at the end of those crazy games, man, I'm tired. I don't want to go out. Well, I should kind of not want to go out because of fatigue or being tired. So I'm not saying it's a bad thing to go out and meet people and go party. I'm just saying if you have all this extra energy, you may want to take a good look at your inventory of how hard you're working, because that lack of giving it your best effort, right? You're in the habit of giving it 70% or 80%. I never give more than 80%, right? Like I drive an electric car. I never charge my battery more than 90%. If you're in that habit, it will slowly erode your confidence. So those are my two go-tos on how to squash confidence. Now let's get into how do we get big gains? What can we do to build our confidence? I have 3 thoughts on how to build confidence. My first thought is small units of time, okay? Or another way to look at it is little wins. I think of when I ran a marathon, right? I'd never ran 26.2 miles before. And I'm telling you, after mile 5 of running the San Diego Marathon, I'm like, I got 21 more miles to go. Like, it feels like my legs are gonna fall off, like the hip sockets, the knees, the ankles, I'm telling you. And maybe I was carrying a little too much weight in that marathon or something like that. I could have stood to lose 30 pounds before running that race. But I'm telling you, at the 5-mile marker, I'm really questioning whether I'm gonna be able to pull this off. And so I remember setting all these little goals, like short periods of time. I knew that my wife would be waiting at the halfway mark. There was this bridge in the race at the 13.1 mile marker where, you could wave to your loved ones. I just remember thinking, I at least got to get to the 13.1 marker, wave to my wife, hi Joanne, and then after I wave and she sees me, okay, I'm done. Let's at least get there. I remember getting to that point, I'm like, I got a little bit more in the tank. I can probably go to the 14-mile marker. I can probably go to the 15-mile marker. Oh, you know what? I'm at 15. Jaime, come on, get to 20. You know you can get to 20. And then you want to shut her down at 20. No problem. No shame in that. Let's do it. So I kept setting these short-term targets until finally at the 22-mile marker, I'm like, dude, you're almost done. You've got 4 more miles. You can do it. So look for those little wins. I remember one of my toughest days in the field. It was in Mission Viejo, California. We were setting records with temperatures. I think it was like 110 degrees. And I remember closing the car doors. I'm about to canvass a neighborhood, and I'm looking at this neighborhood. I'm like, there's no trees anywhere in sight. This is like a desert-like environment. Man, I am toast. I don't think I can do it. Well, can I do it for an hour? Jaime, can you at least knock on a few doors? And I'm breathing. I'm like, I don't think I can make it physically. I don't think I can pull this off. Well, I start knocking on doors. Of course, I'm sweating buckets immediately. It doesn't take long until a few blasts of air conditioning is coming out of people's homes, people inviting me in, people asking, do you need a glass of water? I'm like, yeah, I could definitely use some water. So look for those little things. By the end of the day, as I put a full day in the field in this 110-degree heat and had a successful day, I'm like, man, I can do it. What a boost to confidence that is, to do something you didn't think you were capable of doing, right? Do the thing you fear to do and get a record of successes under your belt. That's what we're looking to do, but take it in small wins, small bite-sized chunks of time. Well, you remember the quote in how to squash your confidence, right? You can do the right thing or you can do the easy thing. Well, then the opposite on how to build confidence is gravitate to hard. Okay? I came across this quote not that long ago. Don't ask God to make your life easier. Ask Him to make you stronger. It's a good way to look at it. Like, don't gravitate to ease. You gravitate to hard. You become stronger through the process. I remember when, my wife was going through these different organ cleanses, right, on the road to getting pregnant and building a family. She was cleaning all these different organs, and one of the organs was a colon cleanse, and it required a 6-day fast. You know, and as she's going through all this, I'm like, you know what? Let me do this with you, right? This isn't just a one-person journey. Let me be a good husband. Let me do this with you. I had no idea what I was asking for by fasting for, it was 144 hours. I just remember as the day one, I'm already like, I can hear my stomach growling. I'm already angry. At least I was smart enough to know that I sent half my office out of town on business trips because I didn't want people around me during this week. And so it was difficult. I'm angry. I'm just drinking apple juice, water. I mean, went 144 hours dreaming of going to In-N-Out Burger. I kept saying, listen, on Saturday morning, I'm going to just post up at 6 o'clock in the morning at In-N-Out Burger. All right, so the whole week goes by. That Saturday morning I wake up, I've got this new gear of confidence. Like, I don't think I've done anything more difficult than that. Depriving myself of my physical needs, right? You can do that. Like, what can't you do kind of thing, right? So I just gravitated to hard. And I remember instead of going to In-N-Out, I'm like, man, I'm not craving, greasy food and burgers. I'm actually craving salad, funny enough. I want leafy green vegetables. I'm like, what's happening to me? I'm turning into some kind of weird guy who's craving like vegetables instead of meat. And I decided to go to the gym, even though I'm told like, hey, listen, you don't have any food, maybe you shouldn't do that. I'm like, if there's a day for an unbelievable workout, it is today. I'm gravitating to hard. So when you gravitate to hard and you get those wins under your belt, I'm telling you what it does, it builds your confidence. And of course, it takes a ton of discipline to do that. On one of those days, I remember there were some French fries after the morning meeting sitting on a table in the meeting room. And I'm kind of like, did somebody do that intentionally? And I felt as if those fries were talking to me like, Jaime, look how delicious I am. Eat me. And I'm like, it took discipline to say no. Nobody was around. I could have cheated, but I didn't want to cheat myself. I didn't want to shatter my confidence by gravitating to ease, comfort, and deliciousness. Gravitate to hard. My final thought on building confidence is don't be shy to run it back. What do I mean by that? Just a funny story. I'm in Belize, right? And we're on a snorkel trip. Beautiful water, 85, 86 degree water in Belize, all kinds of marine life. And towards the end of our snorkel trip, there's a shark, right? And I pop up to the top and talking to the guide, and I'm like, there's a shark down there. He says, oh, no worries, it's a nurse shark. He says, go ahead, touch it. They're fine. They've got rounded teeth. I'm like, oh, I've never heard of this, right? I mean, it's a shark. You can tell this thing, it looks kind of scary. Hard to tell how big it is. But I'm like, okay, touch it. So I go diving down. I see this shark. I'm like getting closer and closer. Of course, as I'm getting closer, the shark is appearing larger and larger to the point of it's looking more and more like Jaws the closer I'm getting to this thing. And so I come within probably a couple inches of touching it, and I fold, I buckle. I can't do it. I'm afraid. And I come up to the top, and the instructor who is watching me, he just starts laughing. And I'm like, oh man. And of course the shark swims away. We get into the boat. We're talking about this. He's like, yeah, these sharks, they don't attack anybody. They've got round teeth, all this other stuff. And I'm feeling like a total loser because I had an opportunity to touch a shark, which I've never done. And I was too chicken. I was afraid. So we're driving back, and I'm like, and the next day we had a wedding, and I'm like, hey, what's your earliest time to come back? He says, well, we're not doing any tours somewhere. I'm like, I gotta come back. I can't leave Belize and not touch one of these nurse sharks. So we got to do this. So he set up a private trip for Joanne and me. And so we, early in the morning, 7 o'clock or something like that, we go to a different place, and he's throwing a bunch of blood and stuff in the water. And of course, this is where a bunch of fishing boats are too. And you can see a plethora of sharks swimming around the boat. And I'm like, what have I got myself into? And so I'm like, okay, well, here goes. I'm trusting this guy. He's not setting me up like I'm going to die here in Belize. And so, get in the water, go down. I see a nurse shark. I touch it. It doesn't tense up like I thought it would. It didn't even pay any attention to me. Didn't notice me. I'm like, oh, okay. Well, Fast forward the clock 30 to 45 minutes later, I am now diving, looking for the largest of these nurse sharks to go down, not only touch it, but to grab it by the tail and swim with these sharks. I mean, I got a little overzealous maybe, but it was unbelievable. But I gave myself a chance to run it back, okay? Don't be shy to do a redo. Kind of like those field days where you lack the courage, you lack the strength to give it your all. You know what? Marinate on that feeling of how crappy you feel, right? Like, man, I feel like a loser. Just like I did with the shark. Like, I feel like a loser. I'm too chicken, didn't even touch it. Well, do a redo. So you're marinating on that feeling of feeling like a loser and say, you know what? Tomorrow is a new day. I'm going to battle tomorrow. I'm going to get a good night's sleep. I'm going to listen to good, either positive music or podcasts or something like that. And you know what? Tomorrow is a fresh day. Kind of like in sports, you can get your butt handed to you. You know what? This is a best of 7 series here. It's not all over. Tomorrow's going to be another day. So walk in angry, walk in with a chip on your shoulder and give it your best, but don't be shy to do a redo. It will build your confidence. So that's what I have for you, Hector. I believe you're right. Discipline and confidence, the two go hand in hand. So look for those opportunities to be, well disciplined and stay in the zone and watch your confidence rise.